Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. For those in virtual attendance, please note that there is a globe icon near the hand feature on your screen. This will allow you to listen and participate in tonight's event in Spanish.
Bienvenidos a la reunión de hoy. En unos momentos vamos a activar la función de interpretación. Cuando lancemos la función de interpretación, van a notar un icono con forma de mundito al lado del icono de la mano, y cuando estén listos pueden hacer clic en este icono y elegir español para escuchar esta reunión en español. Muchas gracias.
Our interpreters this evening are Annabella Tidona and Gilberto Martin del Campo. Thank you both for your time and services. Chair, when you're ready, we can proceed with the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Good evening. It is 6:04. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the final Independent Redistricting Commission meeting. Tonight is April 14th, 2022. This is a hybrid meeting with some IRC members and city staff attending remotely to ensure proper social distancing during this federal, state, and local emergency. I'd like to introduce the staff present. We have City Clerk Judy Herron, Administrative Assistant Sarah Sandoval, and Assistant City Attorney Denise Bizzano. From the Independent Redistricting Commission here in Chambers, we have Commissioners Vallis, Earhart, Hill, Saad, Vice Chair Gilmer, Commissioner Alternate Marquardt, and attending virtually, I believe we have Commissioner Walter and Commissioner Alternate Kissel. Administrative Assistant Ms. Sandoval, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how tonight's meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Ariano. At this time, we ask that any members of the IRC who are attending this meeting virtually remain on screen for the duration of the meeting and control their own webcams and microphones. Staff in virtual attendance will activate their webcams and microphones when addressing the advisory body. For members of the public who are in virtual attendance and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen. Or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. In-person attendees who would like to make public comment can please approach the clerk's desk to fill out a speaker card. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sandoval. That brings us to agenda item C, public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the IRC on any subject not listed on this evening's agenda. Each speaker may address the IRC once for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or the political jurisdiction in which you live. Also, please note the IRC cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore we cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought under public comment other than to provide general information. Ms. Sandoval, do we have any public comment?
At this time, any member of the public wishing to comment on any subject not listed on this evening's agenda may do so by pressing *9 from a landline or cell phone, or engaging the raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen. Once again, in-person attendees can approach the clerk's desk to fill out a speaker card. We do have one virtual hand up, Chair. We have Katie Baruzzi.
Hi, this is Katie Baruzzi. I live in Menlo Park and I serve on the Complete Streets Commission, but I'm speaking for myself. And I'm really just commenting because I'm so moved by how well this independent commission has worked. And I'm grateful. I think that this is a best practice, and I hope that other communities are watching and learning from what Menlo Park has been able to do. It's just been transparent, and it seems really productive. And I watched you really grapple with the implications of the changes that you were going to be voting for. And I'm also grateful to the staff who have helped you, the demographers, the city attorneys, to Judy Heron, and to anybody else I've missed. That's all. I don't want to take up more of your time, but I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for setting such a great example for other communities. And I feel very optimistic about democracy at times like this.
Chair, we have another hand.
Okay.
Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak, I believe.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand. This is Brian. You can drop me.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Chair, I believe that is all the hands we have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sandoval. That brings us to agenda item D, consent calendar. Under the consent calendar, the IRC may take action to approve routine business items in one motion unless a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public requests that an item be discussed or continued to a later date. Ms. Sandoval, do we have any public comment on our consent calendar?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, any member of the public wishing to comment on the consent calendar may do so by pressing *9 on their landline or cell phone or engaging the raised hand feature at the bottom of their screen. This will be our final call for public comments on consent calendar item D1, except the Independent Redistricting Commission minutes for April 7th, 2022. Okay, seeing no hands, Chair, we can continue.
Okay, thank you. Bringing it back to the commission, do any members of the commission have discussion or questions on the consent calendar? I have one comment, and that is on behalf of myself. I did not attend last week's meeting, but I did, in the time since, watch the replay of the meeting, and I'm prepared to vote on our lone consent calendar item, which is the minutes from the previous meeting. So, is there a motion and second on the table to approve our consent calendar? Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Second? Thank you. Second by Commissioner Assad. Ms. Sandoval, please state the motion, call for final IRC comments or clarifications, and a vote.
Thank you, Chair. I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill and seconded by Commissioner Assad to approve the consent calendar. Are there any further commission discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Ballas,
Yes.
Commissioner Earhart,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Assad,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gilmer,
Yes.
and Chair Ariano.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes with Commissioner Walter absent.
Thank you. Bringing us to agenda item E, our public hearing. See, it was set for 6:10. Are we okay on time? Yes, 6:13. This public hearing is a formal proceeding held in order to receive testimony from all interested parties on the proposed issue or action for tonight, which is the 7th public hearing to receive public input regarding the preliminary redistricting plan, proposed final map, and composition of city council district boundaries. We are also set to adopt a resolution approving a final redistricting report with findings and reasons for adoption and a final map. map 131.1, establishing new city council district boundaries. And I believe our assistant city attorney will take the lead on this item. So Ms. Bizzano, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Ariano. Good evening, Commissioners. Denise Bizzano, Assistant City Attorney. And I just want to congratulate you all on all the hard work and effort it took to get here tonight before I begin. So as Chair Ariano mentioned, tonight is the 7th public hearing to receive input from the public on the preliminary redistricting plan and map 131.1, which was discussed at your last meeting on April 7th. As you all know, there's a 7-day period which the map and the preliminary redistricting plan have to be published to allow the public to review and consider what the commission will be deciding on tonight, which is a final vote to approve the final report and the map 131.1. To that end, our office has prepared, working with the clerk's office, we've prepared a draft resolution for your consideration. And if you go through the resolution, there are a number of recitals that identify all of the hard work that you undertook to get here this evening, all of the public hearings, all of the outreach to come, and all of the meetings that you undertook to discuss draft maps. There were, I believe, 24 maps that were considered in total by the commission, which is outstanding. I must say that's the highest number of maps I've seen in any jurisdiction. And so I also want to indicate to you or remind you tonight that there is a statutory deadline for the adoption of the map. The state requires that the map be adopted by April 17th. So tonight is sort of the last date for the commission to meet. And to be able to adopt that map by the statutory deadline. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair Ariano and for your discussion and deliberations.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bizzano. Any clarifying questions from the commission before we open the public hearing? Yes, Commissioner Saad.
Chair, I would like to acknowledge there was an email that was sent to us on, I believe, 2 days ago, and that would be on April 12th from a member of the public commenting on the map. There was another comment that was also forwarded to us, but the second email that came to us by Ms. Fry raises some concerns about the delineation between District 4 and 5, and I was hoping that we have a chance to discuss this.
We will have a chance to discuss it after the public hearing when we bring it back to the commission for discussion. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So anything further in terms of clarifying questions from the commission? Okay, so let's go ahead and formally open the public hearing. Ms. Sandoval, do we have any members of the public who wish to provide comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair Ariano. At this time, any member of the public wishing to comment on item E1, 7th public hearing, may do so by pressing the *9 on your landline or cell phone or engaging the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. We also have an in-person public commenter as well. Pam, would you like to go up now? I don't see any virtual hands.
Good evening, Commissioners, Attorney, and staff. My name is Pamela Jones. I'm a resident of the Bellhaven neighborhood and have lived there since 1972. I grew up in East Palo Alto, and my family's been in Palo Alto since 1927, so I kind of know the area. I consider myself a compassionate disruptor, and I'm working to demystify city government. I am certain that all of you recognize the role that you have played in strengthening representative government and representative democracy. I also want to acknowledge the city clerk's office, city staff, attorney, and most of all, Genovo, because they stepped in where they needed to and they provided you with the information that you needed. I have been involved with other redistricting outside of Menlo Park, and that's not always the case. But I also think that you all asked the right questions, so it was kind of the combination of what all of you have done. Is the map perfect? Absolutely not. I don't know how you make a perfect map with people in a city. School districts, yeah, you can kind of do that, but people in a city, it's really hard to do that. Listening to your debate, I couldn't be more excited about what you've done, and listening to what you said, really helped me to understand what your process was, and watching how you did something that we never see our politicians do, and that is you compromised. You worked really hard. You came up with multiple motions, but you realized in the end how important it was to have a unanimous vote. And if I sound like I'm preaching to you, teaching to you, it is because I'm a retired teacher. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Any other members of the public who would like to comment tonight?
Chair, we do have a hand raised, a virtual hand. I'll go ahead and bring them up. Karen Grove. Karen, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. I'm Karen Grove. I'm a resident of District 5, prior and current or future, I think. And I just want to publicly thank Pam Jones for really being engaged in this process and bringing in others like myself, like Katie Baruzzi, who've been engaged in and out, on and off. But Pam's been there the whole time, made sure that we had this process, or did what she could. Nobody can make sure. Anyway, I just wanted to publicly thank her for her advocacy, and thank you all for your diligence and the great job. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Any further comments?
This will be our final call for public comment. As a reminder, to make public comment, you can use the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen or press *9 from your landline or cell phone. Okay, Chair, I think that's all we have for public comment.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will formally close our public hearing and bring the matter back to the commission for discussion. So I know that Commissioner Saad wanted to mention some email communication that the commission received between last week's meeting and this evening. So Commissioner Saad, you want to start us off?
Yes, there were two emails actually that came to our attention, and that was via the city clerk, and one of them was more of asking where the final map is, and I think city clerk clarified that issue quickly. The second email that came to us, and as I said, that was authored by Ms. Fry, it was a question about the community of interest, or I think neighborhood of interest in this, to be honest with you. And then she mentioned the line that divided District 4 and 5, and was wondering whether there could be some amendment to keep that neighborhood together. I'm not sure if the gentlemen from Genova are still with us today, or if we should do that exercise or consider it. So I'd like to have the commissioners debate this and make a decision eventually.
Commissioner Ballas, yes.
I just to say, I saw the email just before I came over, fortunately. So I drove through that neighborhood on my way over, just drove up Wailea and across San Mateo. And it's, I mean, if we did want to consider it, and it is somewhat late in process to do that, that the 2 or 3 streets on either side, it's pretty indistinguishable in terms of the character of the neighborhood. So while I really wish that the public had weighed in earlier, we might have been able to switch some other things around, but it does seem like, and I just did a quick check on District Church. If we moved a street or who this way, it's 130 or so, 130, maybe 100 at minimum people that would be moved. And then it starts to get very messy. And I think we're out of time.
Vice Chair Gilmer.
Last week, when we talked about making a small change, we really didn't have the time to accomplish it a week ago. I would ask the Assistant City Attorney if there is any leverage to make any changes before we engage in a discussion on doing so.
So the constraints that this commission would be under is that you wouldn't be able to publish the map for 7 days prior to adoption because the statutory deadline is the 17th. So there'd be no way to comply with the 7-day publication requirement that's in the resolution to establish the IRC, but it's also a statutory requirement as well. So in other words, it is impossible to make any changes to the map at this point due to the statutory deadline of April 17th.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. I think it streamlines our discussion a bit this evening. I also read the email. I appreciate the feedback. As Commissioner Bowles had stated, it would have been very helpful even 2 weeks ago. But given the time constraints imposed by the statute, regrettably, we cannot make any further amendments to our preferred draft map. So I think that's pretty much where we are and what we're working with this evening. So, sure.
I think for future, I guess it's not going to happen for another 10 years, but it did occur to me when I saw the feedback, because we didn't decide on the map until a week ago and we needed we were allowing 7 days for public comment. We sort of backed ourselves into this position where we couldn't respond to public comment. So perhaps going, for the next time this happens, the next commission could attempt to make that final map, or at least the proposed final, available 14 days in advance so the public could look at it. You'd have some time. You can back yourself all the way up to the beginning of the process, but so.
Yes, Commissioner Assad.
Chair, and I have to voice my my comment as a kind of little bit pushback, and then this is addressed mainly to the Assistant City Attorney. So in your opinion, what's the value of public comment within that week if we cannot make any amendments?
Well, the value is that the public gets to know what changes you are contemplating. And they could come here tonight and voice their opinion in that or in support or dissension. But I will say to the comment about pushing the to the date at which we are here tonight and whether or not it should have been an earlier date. The flip side to what you're saying is that we had more time to deliberate at the front end. There was more opportunity for public hearing because we stretched the calendar date for the adoption of the map was set so far out. We wanted to give, I'm speaking for the clerk, but I think the idea was that we wanted to give as much of an opportunity for discussion in the process as possible. And I'd ask Clerk Karen if you want to add anything as well.
No, I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. As I had mentioned a moment ago, it is regrettable that we did not receive the comment earlier. But just as we have the task of drawing lines on a map, we also have the task of drawing lines in time. And when we have to make a decision on a map and move forward. So had we had the comment earlier, I would have been more than happy to tinker with the boundary between District 4 and 5, but unfortunately, the statute says what it says. Our timeframe is to adopt the map really today, since we only have this until the 17th to do so. And so, and unless there's anything further, I would entertain a motion and a second. Oh, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick remark is that I think we can feel it is fortunate that there's no harm that is done by this piece of the map that is not laid out in the way that some members of the public would like. Fortunately, of course, everybody is represented, and the neighborhood will continue to have block parties. And so that, that's a good thing.
Thank you. Anything further? Is there a motion and second on the table to adopt the proposed map?
I will make a motion to adopt the proposed map 131.1.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Ms. Sandoval, please state the motion, call for final comments or clarifications, and a vote.
Chair Ariano, before the motion is restated, I just want to clarify with the maker of the motion that it's a motion to adopt the resolution in the draft form in the package presented to you. Which it would include adoption of the redistricting report.
So, sure, to the maker of the motion, do you want to restate?
Sure, let me restate that. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the final redistricting report with the findings and reasons for adoption and a final map 131.1 to establish new city council district boundaries.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Earhart. Motion and second. Ms. Sandoval, please state the motion. Call for any final comments or clarifications from the IRC and a vote.
I'm happy to, Chair Ariano. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ballas and seconded by Commissioner Earhart to adopt a resolution approving the final redistricting report and map. Is there any further commission discussion or questions?
This is Vice Chair Gilmer. Will there be a reading of the resolution that we're voting on?
No, there will not. The resolution is on page E15 of the agenda packet. We do have spare hard copies if anybody would need to look it over. Okay, any final discussion or questions before we do a roll call vote? Okay. Commissioner Ballas,
Yes.
Commissioner Earhart,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Sod,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gilmer,
Yes.
Chair Ariano,
Yes.
and the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. And I have a note here that says one final order of business around the maps is we are to designate a representative from the commission to present the final map and districting plan to the city council at its April 26th meeting. And so, Ms. City Clerk, it says on my minutes here, or my speaker notes here, we are to do this by acclamation. I'm not quite sure what that means. Could you please enlighten me?
Yes. So it's what we're looking is we're not looking for a formal vote per se, but by acclamation of the group to select one member to present to the city council at their April 26th meeting.
I see. Okay. Well, can do volunteers or we can do victims.
Well, you, Chair Ariano,
our
are
chair has
very
put in-
qualified.
The chair has put in a lot of work.
We have all put in a lot of work. I feel like any of us would be more than capable of presenting the map and do an excellent job of doing so. So before I sort of assume that role, I would ask among commissioners if anyone would like to do so, just for their own fun and educational purposes.
So you're saying that we're switching over to victim now?
We have acclaimed you.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I will assume that responsibility to present our final map and districting plan to the city council at its April 26th meeting. Thank you.
And I would like to encourage everybody here to attend that meeting as well. It'd be very nice.
It's the 26th, April 26th. Okay, that brings us to agenda item F, reports and announcements. Any reports from the commission since last Thursday? Yes, Commissioner Earhart.
Thank you. I don't have a report as such. I just wondered if it would be appropriate for us to pass along some suggestions or wisdom for future. Because this happens so infrequently, it might be helpful to do those now while we're thinking about it, so that when the next council reviews this and is making a decision about how to proceed.
Okay. Now is a better time than any, not as good a time as any, to say better time than any. Seeing some enthusiastic thumbs up from city staff. So would you like to get us started?
So I have one suggestion, and I think it relates to the concern we had about the input that came too late for us to consider. And I think this all traces back to the city council not making a decision early enough in the process to get the commission going, to give us, we could have had more time had the process begun earlier. And I know there were comments from citizens, including Ms. Jones and some other civic organizations who more than a year ago had urged the city council to make a decision on the form that this commission would take and get the process rolling. And I realized the city was dealing with, the council was dealing with a lot of issues, but had those decisions been made earlier, the final map could have been decided on a few weeks earlier, given more people a chance to do it so that we weren't up against that very, very tight deadline at the end.
I have a comment I'd like to add. I think the article in the Menlo Park Almanac, that was a very detailed, lengthy article, spurred a lot more interest in the process. Unfortunately, it came a little too late to make a difference. If we can do some outreach along the lines of getting an article of that nature when we're considering the final maps, maybe when we've pared it down to a small number, that might go more towards getting public input when we need it. We've given a lot of opportunities to hear from the public, and engagement was nice, but it wasn't significant. We didn't hear a lot of comments on the map, so I'd like to see more of that in 10 years.
Commissioner Assad and then Commissioner Earhart.
So along the same lines, actually, I second Brian's point, Commissioner, and other commissioners on the committee also. It's the public engagement, in my opinion, has started a little too late. And then it didn't take effect until 2022. And we should have started it earlier on. And I think November, when we met, should have been an item on the agenda to be able to start the public engagement. The second comment I have and recommendation for in 10 years is to have more frequent meetings at the beginning of the process, because we had the wisdom to add one more meeting, I think that we have missed. And then I think more frequent meetings, especially on weekly basis, keeps the momentum going. And eventually, if the process ends or the maps have been decided, then some meetings can be canceled later on rather than the opposite. Last, I would second my colleagues' suggestion is to post the final map 2 weeks ahead of time. So we allow 1 week for public comment, so we can allow time for any changes or modifications, and then allow another week now that we learned that week is only for comments, but it's basically things are set in stone. So this would be my suggestion for the committee that would form in 10 years from now. Thank you.
I also wanted to add that I would hope city councils of the future will not shy away from the independent commission model. There was definitely some concern expressed by a couple of council members about going this way. And I think our process has done us proud and done the city proud. So I would hope that they would keep that in mind. I will add one other thing. As far as the public engagement, it's my view that the engagement really doesn't come until there are maps to look at. So that's where the public engagement really needs to be ready and kicked in for that process to get people paying attention, a renewed effort at that point. Thank you.
Anything further? Yes, Commissioner Marquardt.
I think I came into the process with a very unprofessional understanding of what we were going to do, and it took me a while to understand the process. And so if the city's going through another independent commission and just sort of wildly opening the interest floor, I think there's something we could do earlier on in the process to explain what the process steps are and how meetings are run, so that it doesn't feel like such an alien format to somebody coming in from the outside. To understand, we're going to have the city clerks, we're going to have the attorneys, we're going to go through ethics training, we're going to start to understand the terms that we can take into consideration, what's a community of interest, what are the things we have to ignore, what are the things we have to take into consideration. And then we start looking at maps, and then we start doing variations, and then we start voting and doing outreach. I think this is a high level context that I missed earlier on in the process. And if we were to do this again, it would really help sort of guidepost as we were going through this.
Commissioner Hill.
When you were speaking, Commissioner Marquardt, it made me think about how much there was a hill to climb in terms of understanding exactly what it means to evaluate a map. What are we looking for? And an idea might be that for a decade from now group, they might watch a couple of little clips from our meetings where we're getting into the details about which road and why and which neighborhood and where to cut a district. And that would have made a big difference for me trying to understand what we were doing.
Commissioner Ballas.
I'm not sure if this belongs in the report, but I'll throw it out there and you can tell me. I think we all were very happy with Genovo. So I don't know if we can give them a our version of a 5-star recommendation on Yelp. If they're still around, when this next comes around, that certainly would be someone I would go back to.
Vice Chair Gilmer.
One thing I think we benefited from was we had representatives from every district on the commission who had a micro understanding of their neighborhoods and their area. And I think we benefited greatly from having that understanding from each person who knew their area and could contribute when we were looking at, dividing lines. So I would try to keep that in the future.
So Ms. Herron, our comments were a bit of a free-flowing discussion. Did you have any sort of clarification questions or anything that you would like us to elaborate upon?
So again, thank you guys for that. That was incredibly helpful. Sarah and I were both taking feverish notes. And I do agree that maybe getting this process started sooner is, I think that should be number one. That way there is, more time to receive public comment that we can act upon or make changes based upon. So again, kind of leading into that 14-day public comment period for the final map is a great idea. With community engagement, again, I agree with, I believe it was Commissioner Saad who said that was probably an item we should have brought to the IRC, first and foremost. That way we could have kicked off, get that public engagement piece sooner. You know, I will say, just based on maps, you know, as we've all heard and we've all said, you know, we did engage. We just didn't have, you know, that live public engagement, those live public comments. So I think everything that the commission has applied just now has been incredibly helpful. It'll definitely help us, you know, in our 8 to 10 year timeframe when we do this again. And I mean, from a personal standpoint, I mean, this is my first independent body. I've worked for 3 different cities and they've always been advisory. So I was a little nervous to go into this, but you all have just been exemplary. Great communication, great questions, great focus. So yes, I'd highly recommend to any group, any body, any agency that, you know, the independent can function. And I mean, you guys were great. So thank you.
Sure.
Of course, I wish in 10 years there are multiple versions of Miss Pam Jones as well, because and I'm using you seriously as an icon for the input that you gave. And I would worry when you don't talk, because this means when there's something you're not happy, maybe you don't want to share. But it was great to hear the public weigh in. And although, as Brian mentioned, that it was sparse sometimes, and we had 4 or 5 regular residents that came in, much appreciated, by the way. But we would love to hear more from the public. And I think, Ms. Jones, you set an example for myself, actually, to emulate in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would say just briefly on the public input, public feedback. I certainly, sitting up here, understand where we all are coming from in terms of really looking for that and trying to use that as a way to help us make our own decisions. However, I will say, just sort of in professional experience, when you are dealing with these kinds of issues and trying to do local government work, oftentimes the only time you get public comment is when people are unhappy or when they think you are doing a bad job at something. And so if there is an inference that we can draw from our work, it is maybe that the folks who did tune in and the folks who were watching maybe did like what we were doing. And so oftentimes, I think in our vigor to solicit input, we maybe are overlooking the fact that people are watching and they did think that we were doing the right things and doing a good job of our task. So to sum up for Ms. Herron, start earlier, a handbook for incoming commissioners, and perhaps some more structured composition around who is on the district or who is on the commission in terms of diverse geographic representation.
Thank you, Chair.
Anything further? Reports and announcements.
So I have one more.
Okay.
So this is just kind of coming, I'm just reading just kind of a brief line from our resolution that the IRC within 91 days, the body will cease. So this is the final meeting. The minutes of this meeting will still be posted. Will just be maintained as draft.
Thank you. And so with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much.